Did you know that 75% of school teachers and 85% of school administrators are experiencing high levels of stress and anxiety? And this is the research before COVID. So I want to share with you, I'm going to share tip number one today, teachers and administrators, for how can we really learn to cope in stressful times. Because to be honest with you all, I see that teachers are melting down every single day. Somehow they are putting even more time and more hours into the workday. They're losing their family life or what they had of it. And they're operating with anxious brains because they're never, ever getting caught up with their unending to-do list. And so I'm really passionate about this topic because I know myself when I was in the classroom, you know, you spend hours and hours preparing lesson plans. And now with remote learning and virtual learning, we're spending hours upon hours in our weekends trying to prepare high engaging lessons for students on top of trying to stay afloat of the grade book and grading practices and all of that. So I just know and see this in teachers everywhere. And in fact, a former physician told me, he said, Kim, the number one reason I see patients is for the common cold. And the number two reason I see patients is to actually prescribe an antidepressant. And my number one clients are school teachers. And I think that this is something that has been building for years and years and years. And teachers are really struggling to find that work-life balance. So what I want to do is share with you one tip that's going to help you. And it's going to be a hard one to hear, but you really do need to create office hours. That's my tip number one. And what I mean is you can't be available 24/7 for your students. You can't be answering the emails constantly. You can't be letting parents know that you're available 24/7. You really will lose your mind if you haven't already, and you will lose any sense of peace or wellness that you have in your life. And so I want to give you the permission to designate office hours. And to be honest, I'm about to lose my mind right now because my three dogs have decided to play in my office right now as I'm doing this live video for you. They wait until I go live and then they run into my office and they're literally jumping all over each other and barking. So there's where my stress level is right now. But what you really do need to do is figure out when you are going to be available in your schedule for parents. Because this idea of parents expecting you to respond to the night, and I get it, parents are really stressed out too, but you have permission to create office hours to say, hey, I'm only going to be available between the hours of 5 and 6 p.m. in the evening. If you have a question, that's when I'll be on email. Or you're allowed to kind of create some boundaries for yourself, because here's what happens. We know from the research that a positive brain is going to be 31% more productive than a brain negative, neutral, or stressed. And so if I ask you educators, where is your brain most of the time? I'm going to guess that your brain is usually at negative, neutral, or stressed. And so what we know is causing that is this enormous workload that you're constantly being bombarded with, and you're constantly trying to meet the expectations of everyone. This is what school teachers do. I know them very well. I was in the classroom and struggled with the very same thing, trying to be everything to everyone and losing my own sanity and my own well-being in the process. And so I want to give you the permission to say, hey, I have office hours. These are the time slots throughout the day. And if you want to give them a time slot in the evening, that I am available. If I don't respond during that time, I will respond during the next day's office hours. But you have to be able to give yourself a little bit of grace during this. And if you don't have the courage to establish those boundaries, even though I know this is a super hard thing for educators to do, and I know it causes anxiety, but you have to decide, what is the pain that you want to feel? Do you want to feel the pain of feeling like you're tied to your job and constantly stressed? Or do you want to feel the pain of saying, hey, I'm actually allowed to create some boundaries in my life around my job so that I can show up as the best version of myself for my family too, which I know is really hard to do. In fact, I created the Happy Academy for school districts for this very reason, so that we can actually bring social and emotional well-being for educators and for students to the forefront. And even though we're not running that right now because it's already started for this school year and we already have school districts going through it, it's just been really helpful for educators to know that they are allowed to prioritize themselves. So this is me telling you one of my top 5 tips for coping in stressful times. And that is tip number 1, you need and deserve office hours. You deserve to have boundaries and to protect your personal space, your home life space, and separate that from your job.